Today we are featuring our soup. Our featured soup of the day is going to be seafood gumbo. I'm fortunate enough that Donald has a Bayou background, so he's going to influence our gumbo here. And we're going to get started, and while we're cooking the gumbo, we're going to talk about our mentoring program. We have a mentoring program for people with disabilities, and Donald has a number of questions for us, and hopefully I'll be able to answer all of them.
Well, the first question I'd like to ask is, what's the name of your program?
The name of the program is Somebody Cares.
And what's it about?
It's about dealing with people with disabilities, especially those with developmental disabilities. People with traumatic brain injuries, strokes. We're an advocacy agency for people with disabilities. So the mentoring program follows that type of advocacy that we have. And we'd like to get our people mainstream. So they're out, they're socializing, they're interacting with the typical folk in
and also,
life.
I imagine also to remove some of the stigma that people with those type of disabilities have against the, well, let's say what the everyday society sees that these people have, that they're not as dangerous or harm to themselves as they think they are.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because the other day I had an attorney friend of mine brought his wife over, and I have people with disabilities in my home, and she was just kind of standoffish.
Right.
And she told me when her husband left the room, she said, "I'm glad you're still in here with me, because if I were in here alone, I would have been afraid of the person in your home." And I said, "Afraid of it?
Right.
Why?" But fear is
That's
a part.
stigmatism.
Yeah, that's that stigma that's being associated with people who have developmental disabilities, in that they think that they're violent, but typically they're not. Unless, of course, they're like duly diagnosed with a mental health disorder, then you can have behaviors with that.
But I truly understand it, because I've been in situations where I've been alone in a room with people, and they thought I was going to be a danger to them. But
I thought when I met you, you were going to be a danger.
I am dangerous.
Okay, get this dangerous gumbo. Let's get it going.
The first thing we're going to start with is the roux. Now, there's many different ways to make a roux, so we're going to do it Jackie's way today. Okay? So what's the first thing you like to do, Jackie?
The first thing that I like to do is to put the oil in the pan.
Okay.
Are we going to do it with this water, or are we going to dump
that
this?
was water. Just nobody was supposed to know there was water
Oh,
in there.
there's no water in there.
There will be more water.
I like to start with the oil.
So
hold on one moment, Idris. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
So how we gonna start your roux today, Jackie?
My roux today, we will start with a combination of olive oil and butter.
Okay.
Mix that together.
Got enough?
Oh, that's plenty,
Okay.
because then we have that fat from the butter.
Okay.
But I like, olive oil because it's
This much? Or half as much?
half.
Half.
There's a lot of people, gumbo is fixed in so many different
Yeah,
ways.
it's just like everything. There's lots of ways, and there's really no wrong way to fix it. The only wrong way you fix gumbo is if it doesn't taste right like you make it.
Yeah.
Then that's the wrong way. But other than that, it's not that much of a difference.
And let me tell you, you might have a remedy for me. Most recently, excuse me, I made a gumbo, some gumbo, seafood gumbo, and the gumbo fillet was not fresh.
Right.
And I had all of this rich scallops, shrimp, you name it, lump crab meat, everything in there. And in the end, it was still kind of bland. It didn't have that depth that you get from the gumbo fillet.
Right. Well, there's a lot of things that you can do, and I have this secret recipe, this secret thing that I got from my grandmother. She passed it on to I'm sorry. What you can do is you can add a little white truffle oil.
Oh, okay.
And what it does is it'll help make the flavor of the fillet pop if it's not what it should be.
Okay.
And even if it is just a little touch of it, so just add a little bit, give it a little more added flavor. And as most people know, you can't have Creole food without a little smack to the mouth.
Yes, yes.
Now, you people up here may have not as strong palate as we do down in the Bayou country, so I'll just put a little bit in this one, just to give it a little smack to the mouth. And once it's at the table, your own little hot sauces or additives that you want to put in there, you put that in there and pop up the flavor tree.
Okay. You need flour?
Let me turn this up a little bit.
Once my oil gets hot, that's when I add my flour.
Yeah. There's butter still a bit, but you can try it again.
You want to add all of it?
Yeah, all of it.
Okay. No.
And see, when you're doing this part here, it's most important to keep it going, because what happens sometimes is you get the lumps in there. And then once you get the lumps, it's like opium.
Like opium?
Oatmeal. Well, you can make it like oatmeal if you want to. I'm not gonna come visit you in jail. I look like a sister. What that mean? Now, are you gonna make your roux brown?
Yes, I like a brown.
Now, most times when you're making a roux, because the roux is made with flour and chicken broth and stuff like that, it has a light color to it. But if you want to make it brown, what you do is you brown the flour and the roux for a few minutes before you add anything else in it.
And one of the reasons I like browning the flour is because it takes away from some of the starchiness of the flour.
It also has a smokiness to it.
Yeah, it does. I find too, the Hungarian paprika, I add a little bit of that. That gives it a little more depth to the flavor too.
Well, see, the good thing about doing these type of dishes nowadays is there's so many more spices and ingredients that you can add to foods that you didn't have back in my day. When I was, never mind. Anyway,
I was going to say, whoa, what day was that now?
back in my day, when my mother started doing everything was...
Conestoga wagon days.
Oh, okay. Anyway.
I'm older than him though, so I can say that. Yes, I am. I am.
Well, how much?
5 years.
Come here, let me give you a hug. You're so sweet.
Oh, okay. 1 year.
You wasn't supposed to tell me that.
Okay, this is when we start adding the, you want the onions first or the celery?
Onions.
Okay.
Don't want the onions to cook a little bit.
And that is 2 small onions. About how much flour do you think we added?
I think we may have added a little bit too much, but the good thing about this is if I wanted to reduce this, or if I thought it was too thick, I just take this out.
Okay.
Put this on the side. And then if I want to thicken it up later on, I just add it back again.
Why don't we do that then?
Okay.
Here, let's take part of that out. This is why we call it home cooking with a purpose.
Yeah. If I can stick some more.
Okay. Now, do you want your celery at the same time? Or
yes. Let me get my celery down.
And that is about a half cup to 3/4 cup celery. And we added about how much oil?
About 2 tablespoons, I think.
2 tablespoons of olive oil and about 1/4 of a stick of butter. Do you ever make your roux and don't let it brown?
Yeah.
I've never done that.
Yeah, I do. But see a roux. A lot of people think a roux is only for any, let's say, southern cooking. But you can make a roux for anything. A roux is basically a gravy. You know. So if you, well, see, my wife's from New York State, so I have to worry about that. But anytime you want to make a gravy, the best way to do it is start with a roux. And the best way to do that is with butter and or oil and flour. Now the way I like to do mine is I like to melt my butter in the microwave, add the flour to it and make a paste. This way here, when I add the chicken broth, I start off with the chicken broth and whatever else I'm going to put in there. And then I take a little bit, tablespoon by tablespoonful of the roux, put it in, but I have the consistency that I want.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to, we can add the chicken broth now too.
Okay. You want the whole?
Yeah, give me the whole thing. Well, I'll add it. So you pour it.
You stir and I'll pour.
Here you go. Okay, stop.
Yeah.
So right now, what it looks like right now is a creamy kind of consistency. You have any G Washington sauce?
Any what kind of Washington?
G Washington.
Is that a New York thing?
No. It's a browning. It's a browning.
No.
Yeah. There's a product called G Washington sauce. It's been around forever. And a lot of times, instead of you trying to wait for the roux to brown, you just add a couple of drops of that.
Now, is that like that smoke fake?
No,
liquid smoke?
I
don't like that liquid smoke.
All it does is brown the roux. That's
okay.
it.
And it's called what?
G Washington sauce.
G Washington. I thought that was like an NYC thing.
No. So this is coming up to the consistency that I like to have it. So we let this simmer. We let this simmer for a while.
And the gumbo we're making is seafood gumbo, and I don't like to add, some people add andouille sausage even to their seafood gumbo. I like to keep it strictly gumbo, strictly seafood. When do you add your okra?
Now.
Perfect time.
Good point.
Want me to add it?
Now the okra is another thing that really goes according to what you like to taste. Some people like to have the okra have a little bite to it. Yeah, I like it roasted, nice and slow.
Yeah, sometimes what you can do is after the gumbo is finished, you can deep fry cut the okra up, deep fry it, and put it on as a garnish. Right. And it's really good.
You can also deep fry the okra and add it to it also.
Yes. Either way, it's tasty.
That's right.
Especially if you like okra. If you don't like okra, nothing you do to it is gonna make it taste good.
I hate okra.
You don't.
I hate okra.
Do you really?
hate okra.
I thought you said you liked
The only
okra.
time I eat okra is in gumbo. You take the gumbo, you take the okra out of the gumbo, you might as well just drink dish
What
water.
about in another soup?
No.
Oh.
My mother used to tell me I used to eat okra raw. It must have been one of your other babies, it wasn't me.
If it's tender, I can eat it raw.
I'm sorry. I did have it deep fried in flour one time, that was very good.
So should we add at this point?
Now we start
more
adding we got enough broth, we need to start add some of the spices.
broth? Okay, what would you like first?
Give me the filet.
This is gumbo filet,
Right.
which is essentially crushed sassafras leaves. And we've got about
2 tablespoons, 2 teaspoons.
2 teaspoons.
Right. This is a small pot. But once again, when you start to do this stuff, it's important to realize that everything is to taste. When you're dealing with gumbos and things that are home cooking, there is no set amount of measurements that you do.
And see, I put my filet in like right before it's done.
Mm-hmm. Well, this filet is a little. Oh, that's not weak. We're gonna add this. We're gonna add this Cajun spice. Just give it a little snap.
Yes.
And see, when you're dealing with dry ingredients like this, especially with filet and stuff like that, the true flavor is in the oils that's ground up in the powder, and you want to give that stuff a chance to release. That's why a lot of times you want to put it in early.
What about bay leaves now?
Yeah, bay leaves too.
And that's about 5 bay leaves.
Right. Garlic powder.
A couple of teaspoons of garlic powder.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of teaspoons of onion powder.
Right.
And that is it. We got a little bit more. Didn't quite get all the garlic.
Now, normally if I'm making this at home, I'm tasting it at home, so I'm doing it. But because we are politically correct, I'm not gonna be dipping in the pot like I normally would.
Are you a messy cook? Cause I'm a messy cook.
I used to be a messy cook until I had a friend of mine. I went over to a friend of mine's house to do some cooking, and I usually make a big mess. And she says, if you're gonna cook in my kitchen again, wash as you go.
That's exactly what I was told.
That's what I do now. Wash as I go.
Exactly what I'm. So keep some water, dish water in the
Right.
sink, and as you go, that's too much work for me. I want to concentrate solely on cooking when I'm cooking.
Now, see, we didn't even brown this, but you see already.
It's browning.
It's taking a brown. That's a combination of the filet and the Cajun Creole stuff.
When did you add your secret ingredient?
My secret mother's ingredients. I usually wait to the end to do that. This is secret. This thing is at least a couple of 100 years old. So don't. Just get right now. Right now, it is the consistency of gravy. So you want to thin that down so we get some more chicken broth. How much is in there? Or about half of that.
Tell me when.
That's good.